And our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okolo-Baja, is seated here. Chukwudi, is a wet morning today. Beautiful weather.
But I'm happy and excited, as you observed.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a good day. Yeah. Remember what we always say, a good dose of optimism sees you through. Hello, Claire.
Hello, Chukwudi.
You like the positivism we are dropping this morning? It moves live.
Okay, let's quickly begin with the papers this morning. And I'm starting with the Sun newspaper. The Sun newspaper, and just beside the masthead, herdsmen kill 13, burn houses in Benue community. Find the details on page 4. Minimum wage. Ahead of meeting with FG, Labour insists on 250,000 naira. Find the details on page 6. Reps Minister trade words over 1.5 billion contractors fund. Find it on page 26. Insecurity. Tinubu trapped, caged by powerful forces in the villa. That's coming from Mohammed Ndume. Details on page 27. I will rather resign than rule on bended knees. Is attributed to the River State Governor, Fubara, insists Amole-led lawmakers' seats were declared vacant December 13. Details on page 8. Tension in Abuja, Anambra, as INEC recognizes Edozie Njoku's-led EXCO. Details on page 26. NDDC presents 1.9 trillion budget estimates to reps, strategizes for regions' growth. Details on page 26. Tinubu directs step down of works memos, orders review. With rider, FEC sets up committee to review Public Procurement Act. And details on page 6. FG governors no fate on local government autonomy as Supreme Court delivers verdict today. Details on page 6. Our judicial system now mockery. CGN laments. Let's quickly go to the Blueprint newspaper. They will have busy front pages today. And above the Blueprint, above the masthead, reps canvass 1% first-line charge for TB malaria control. You find details on page 6. With current strategic measures, food prices will crash in 180 days. That's coming from the federal government, and the assurance of high-quality grains importation. Details on page 4. Tinubu meets NLC TUC leaders over minimum wage today. Find all the details in the paper. And ahead, Edo Ondo polls, Areola warns against conflicting judgments. With riders says Nigeria in perilous times over litigation upcharge. Swears in 22 appeal court judges, 12 in FCT High Court. At the bottom plate of the Blueprint, Supreme Court to deliver judgment on local government autonomy. USA to inject 115 billion naira into Nigeria's power sector. Find the details on page 20. NDLEA promotes 5,042 officers, confers 70 with special awards. I think that's about what we have.
Okay, Jimmy, thank you. You've read out most of the stories I have. But the Vanguard has as its lead story, will regulate price of imported foodstuffs. That's government, and it comes with some metrics there, or riders, if you may. And just again to emphasize the story that Jume just read out, conflicting court orders, CJN vows to deal with errant judges, and this paper actually noted two very prominent situations. Recent conflicting orders of courts of concurrent jurisdiction include the Kano Emirship tussle. A state high court and the federal high court gave conflicting orders. And then the River State crisis, two federal high courts in Abuja issued conflicting orders and political crisis in the state. I think this is very good, emphasizing the two instances there. And UBEC is saying that Nigeria needs almost 200,000 more teachers and 1.1 million classrooms. That story is on page 9. And end SARS protest, ECOWAS court finds federal government guilty of rights violations. And that story is on page 4. Minimum wage, Tinubu meets organized labor today. And I will round off a Vanguard newspaper after Chukwudi's review with Mr. and Mrs. Quite interesting one there. But Chuks, I don't know. Let's start with probably the federal government resolve to regulate price of imported foodstuffs. And I'm wondering, do we still have price control boards? In those days, it would have been easier to do that. But in a situation where prices are determined by market forces, how easy will it be to do this? And it says that it expects that the prices should crash in 180 days.
I was listening to a clip, where the former Edo State governor, now Senator Kasa Danso Shomole, was saying, how liberal can you actually make your economy and all that? Sometimes government needs to come down on certain things. Some regulation is needed. And I found it a very interesting subject. The PCB, the Price Control Board boards then were quite relevant, in determining some level of stability in the prices of things out there in the marketplace. But now that they are not in place, the interesting question you want to ask as a journalist, we tell you the cup is half empty of water because we pry. You need to tell us how you want to do it. What are the mechanisms? What are those? What is the setup that will help us to regulate the price, the prices of these
Yes,
things?
I'm trying to read if there is.
What is it? They need to come out with the plan, how it's going to work.
Precisely.
Because so many things get so demonized and then abused in this country because supervision is largely lacking in key areas.
Listen to this.
Yes.
To me. The minister, of course, the story is on the inside page. The minister, apparently referring to the Minister of of Agriculture, Food and Security, that's Abubakar Kyari, says the minister also explained that over the next 14 days, the Presidential Food Systems Coordinating Unit and the Economic Management Team will, in collaboration, meet with respective agencies to finalize implementation framework for the new policy of making food cheaply available for Nigerians. The new policy will be the removal of duties and tariffs.
For 180 days.
For 150.
150 days. 150 days, yes.
For 150 days. So probably
we expect that the prices will crash in 180 days. You bought rice for about 70,000 naira. That's the big bull thing.
I'm not a rice person.
That's about three weeks ago or 1 month ago, to be a bit liberal. Today is 85,000 naira.
Yeah.
That meteoric rise is not explainable in economic terms, So what are Kingsley would always call the vampire market cartels? Those are the people I'm saying. How are we going to control them? How? It's a good thing. Government has very good intentions. The first order of government is to provide welfare for the people.
Chukwudi, we have quite a number of stories we will review. But let's quickly look at another clause, Jume, in this story. And this is coming from Senator Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. And he was speaking, according to this paper, on BBC Hausa service yesterday. He said the biggest problem is that they can't see precedent to advise him on food prices. And he said, let me read out here. He said, the biggest problem confronting members of the National Assembly is the alleged closed-door policy of government, where even some members of Tinubu's cabinet cannot see the president, let alone lawmakers who intend to see him and discuss issues pertaining to their constituency.
There's nothing wrong in a lawmaker, a senator for that matter, insisting that
having access,
to the president. But the Senate meets either in plenary or in committees. Those are the platforms for you to actually transmit anything that can hold it,
Yes.
So sometimes the meeting is talking about may not be completely necessary. Please, I'm not disrespecting Senator Ali, not at all.
Yes.
So the president has other things to do as well, but I'm not one of his aides. So let me stop there.
So we stop there. And one other good thing is today the president is meeting the NLC, TUC, leaders over the minimum wage, and I hope something positive comes out of it.
I pray that
because Nigerians have been patiently waiting.
Something will happen to make them meet each other halfway.
Yes.
Yeah. If the NLC is still saying, NLC, TUC are still saying it's going to be 250 and nothing short, I still see brickbats in the days ahead. Let them agree on something.
There will be agreement,
so that we
because
don't die of hunger before they come to our rescue.
another landlords are already, the rents is just going up with an expectation of the rise in salaries and the wages for Nigerian workers. So yes, they are preempting it already, and it's not easy. Yes.
Chukwudi, I'm sorry, we are asked to round off, but it will not be. I think it would be good for us to quickly, if we can just take 60 seconds, to talk about the ECOWAS court finding federal government guilty of rights, and it is ordering the federal government to pay each of the applicants the sum of 2 million as compensation. Additionally, it is also saying that the federal government must adhere to its obligations under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, that's the ACPHR, by investigating and prosecuting its agents responsible for the violations. And the federal government has 6 months to report to it measures that it has put in place to implement
the first thing to say is the fatalities people were announcing and all that, some of it came to the original fallacy. But what the ECOWAS court is saying is that free assembly, protest is still very much something that a democratic government must protect. Those young people were not seen to have been breaking things, and suddenly we broke it up. So they are saying their rights have to be ensured. And that is something that Africa, not just Nigeria, has to pay heed to. Yes.
All right. Chukwudi, let me have the pleasure of allowing you to take your leave,
yes,
while we get on with the business.
There's a seeming tendency to stop kicking me out of it.
No, we won't do that.
We can't kick you out.
You are very relevant to this show. Chukwudi, have a pleasant day. Go and tuck yourself under the duvet. It's raining. All right, we'll take a